know some of us, not us, but some have plans to need to leave early and such. And I know we planned it tentatively for 2 days, so if we can just knock it out this evening. These have been set up on your tablets for you, the worksheet. But I can also email it as well, so that on your downtime, if you want to spend some time going through the worksheet.
Woohoo.
Okay, so I'm going to pull it up on the screen. Can we do that? A little.
Yeah, sorry, we didn't think with the many people. That's how it's good, especially.
We're good.
No, it's actually pronounced, it's pushing on for a little different from how it means.
There's okay.
Chris is kind of hogging the screen.
Yeah.
Well, I have to hog the screen because I don't have one of your little tablets to look at.
Just double click on the spreadsheet, Anthony. Just double click on the one that has the spreadsheet. No,
No,
it usually opens it.
it's, we're sharing monitors a little different things than how a Zoom meeting goes, because we're transferring on
Yeah.
her monitor.
I'll see if I can make some of these, at least the numbers bigger. Okay. So from the screen, so this is the budget worksheet. We've all been working closely with department heads. Go ahead. Welcome. We're waiting for you.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
It's on your tablet, loaded the worksheet is, and then we have it on the screen. I know it's kind of little, but that way maybe you can follow along a little bit. You don't have to skim through the entire worksheet. I can do that for you, but. So I was gonna not get into the weeds because it is a lot of information and it's a spreadsheet that has lots of numbers for you because it has every department and every fund. But just show you at least that way you can see what we're looking at and what we're working with. Again, this is a workshop, so everything's still work in process, okay? All right, so what you have in front of you is the general fund. And the column that's highlighted to the right is the projected revenues or what we're budgeting, what we're requesting in the budget, okay? Some of them have comments so that you can see what I'm taking into consideration, whether it's average or what we're taking, if we're doing the last 3 years, noting that on there. So the main one, and the one that we increased on July 1st, is the one that says GRT, the 2.5%. And you can see the budget on that one initially from fiscal year 2024. Oh, nice. Job, Antoinette. Job, you. Can you guys see it good? Okay. Okay. That one right there was initial budget FY 2024 before the increase. And then FY 26 budget, we increased the budget to 5.8 million. Okay. For fiscal year 27, we're budgeting 6.2 million. Now, hopefully, we can see adjustments later on in the year with our GRT data as it increases. I'll just show you a quick worksheet. This is from the numbers that we've collected thus far. So March of 2026, and then I did a comparison to the same period for March 2025, so you could see the difference. And since it took place in July 1st, but the revenue, the distribution wasn't received until September. So it's lagging those 2 months, but you can see what we've received so far. The increase has been 1.2 million.
So is this all GRT or is this proposed enterprise funds or any of that?
This is just GRT for our general fund. Some of them you can see that 404,000. Part of that GRT is allocated to the economic development, that fund.
Yeah.
709, so that's what we will predict or forecast in our revenues. But then you'll also see that 404,000 in transfers out going to that economic development fund, okay? The 1.25 is a GRT infrastructure. That's the ordinance that wasn't put in place. That's how much would be allocated to that. And then the state share is just a little over 4 million. Okay. 872,000 ambulance revenues. And property taxes, I think I skipped it. Yeah, for property taxes, 848,000. Well, those are our most significant revenues. You'll see total revenue in general fund of 13.9 million. Okay. Now we go into our transfers. So these are transfers out, going to the different funds listed on there. 35 to library fund. Tentatively, that one's definitely highlighted as that may have to come out. You'll see why there towards the end. But just a little over 1 million to streets, and that would be for some equipment needed. And then 500,000 that we would have liked to have for street critical repairs that we may need to fund ourselves.
Can I ask you a question before you go too far? Because it's related to the last section. You mentioned infrastructure fund by ordinance. Is that related to the wastewater treatment plant?
And that one's not specifically related to the treatment plan. It does say like a portion of that was allocated that it could be used for infrastructure needs, whatever that may be.
Okay. So do we have a specific fund that we're required to maintain for the wastewater treatment plant for maintenance?
Yes, there is a reserve fund that you'll see later on in.
Thank you. Okay.
So this one's not in the general fund.
Before you get away from that though, on the street funds. Part of the. I guess
Property
ordinance. On the cameras. For. Traffic cameras by Valencia and the other place, there was. Part of those funds that were supposed to be allocated towards street repairs, weren't they?
Don't know, no, right? It was just the equipment.
So the ordinance stated it was for traffic safety, traffic enforcement, and then we just added it earlier.
Youth sports?
For the youth program.
So what am I thinking of?
I think of the property tax increase.
Property tax was half.
Yep.
Okay.
Which that didn't amount to
No,
hardly anything last time. You gave an update, wasn't it pretty minimal, like 5,000?
yes. When we when it was figured prior to, it was figured incorrectly. So the actual rate that we came up with was about $5,000. Am I
Mhm.
correct? Yeah.
Yeah. It was like 50% of its increase or something.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
Yes.
Okay.
Big one.
Okay, so again, these are just tentative to transfer out, 275,000 potentially for equipment. 190,000 to support the airport fund. And then utilities for the YAM, 603 fund is, unemployment wages. And then what gets transferred from GRT to economic development. So after all that, our net revenues is 11.8 million. Now then, we start to go into general fund expenditures, and these are in their different departments. I will let you know that right now I have put all of payroll for general fund on the manager's budget, just because there's still some adjustments that we like to do for wages and such. So I didn't want to have to like put them all in and correct all these other ones. So you'll see numbers on these, on the area right here where it's personnel items, okay? So you'll see, like, for example, total legislative, this is our council's budget. Well, it'll have that plus the personnel part of it. Municipal court. The manager, so right now this is all of general funds payroll, which includes its wages, overtime, healthcare, retirement. Everything to do with wages,
Taxes.
FICA taxes. Okay. And there's nothing other than those capital outlay requests that you see in the transfers. Everything else in everybody's budget is just operating. In finance, the budget in finance is significantly, probably, I don't say bigger, but it is quite a bit more because all of insurance, and not like water insurance or solid waste, but all of general fund insurance is in the finance budget. Law enforcement liability, things like that are in the finance budget. So city clerk, and I want to get towards the end of our general fund so you can see the net. Some of you might have already taken a look. So the streets is our last department. In general fund expenditures are 14.9 million. And that would be our deficit in general fund. So again, we can decrease some of our transfers for capital outlay requests to bring down the deficit in general fund. So there's still a lot of work to be done.
We keep getting error messages that says our session has expired. So we're not on Excel, so we're not able to see the actual screen.
It's just for Academy.
Yeah.
I got it too.
Oh, did you? Okay.
You can't scroll on your tablet.
I went back to the email we used to.
Help yourself.
No, I got it too.
Showing.
I think these are good.
Oh, that's gone.
Nope, you got it on this one.
Now, restore it.
Back up.
This one down here doesn't have it.
Yours is good.
Mine doesn't. Mine's good.
Back to your mail. Open it back.
This- Eldon, you want this one?
No, I got it.
Okay.
Going up and down.
You just need to.
Let's go back to the email and open it back up.
Okay.
Okay, good.
So what are you exactly proposing? You're saying that we need to
So what are we doing here?
deduct the budget to get a balance? Is that what the goal is, basically? Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Last year in general fund, we budgeted just a little over 1 million deficit. We know we have to utilize the cash in general fund.
Do you have a proposal of what you think?
So
or
definitely hold off on some of these capital expenditures.
The ones in yellow. And what will that get us down to if we do those right off the bat?
So here's
That's like 1.5? So get us halfway roughly?
Right, I got
We still have 1.5 to go.
Say again.
So she's proposing all the ones in yellow to postpone.
it.
So if we do that, we're at 1.5, but we need 1.5 million to deduct to get to a balanced budget. Is what I'm understanding.
Yeah. If we take out the 1,032,000 municipal streets and the 275, it puts us right at 1.7.
And the red 1.7, 1.8. And the airport would be deducted as well? Or no?
Still, we need just a little bit, it might not need the 190, but the airport definitely needs support from general fund to support the operations in that fund.
Okay.
So
What's realistic or you don't know at this time?
for the airport? Oh, no, probably real close to the 190, that's why I might keep that one on.
And it is a little bit hard on the airport, 'cause if you guys don't use the grants, you lose them and you don't get them again. So the airport funds are allotted a certain amount of money each year to be used. So most, we're about $100,000 a year in deficit without including grants. That's just salary, insurance, maintenance, that kind of stuff. And then a lot of your big transfers are for the 99% covered grants. Because if you don't use them, we'll stop getting them. So that's something to look at.
I mean, we're gonna look at this and see where we can
Sure.
scale back to, but a lot of this, it is the bare minimums to operate in our general fund, and primarily it's our payroll. 11 millions in payroll expenses. Our healthcare costs went up, well, they went up last year 20%. This year's about 16%. Quite a bit,
So 20-something% in 2 years, I mean,
well, 20% last year and then about 60%.
so 36%.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. About $100 more a month. Just put this one. Depending on if it's single or family. For me, it's over $100 per family.
Let's go back to the airport really quick. So we have to subsidize the airport by 190K?
Not 190, I think we decided we're about 100,000. We take about 100,000 from the general fund. The 190,000 transfer probably covers some of our grants. They are reimbursement, so we pay them all out, and they can be $800,000 grants. And then reimbursement as the work goes. And in the end, we only pay 1%, but we do have to chalk up a lot of money at the beginning until reimbursements come in.
So if we're, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, if we're taking money from general fund to make ends meet on any enterprise fund, that's a subsidy.
Yep.
Yes,
That's the way.
and subsidies in municipalities are supposed to be brought, not pointing blame here, I just want to make sure we get on the correct side of correct. So when we subsidize an enterprise fund with a general fund, it should go to council saying, hey, we intend to subsidize, you approve it or not, and then it's a record. And if we haven't been doing that, we're gonna start doing that. Okay, and then you don't necessarily lose that money. You're borrowing, so the airport or any other enterprise fund would be borrowing from general fund. For all intents and purposes. When a day comes that you're solving, making ends meet and profitable, if people were doing business there, then we would impose a tariff, if I'm not mistaken, that's the correct term, and that tariff would recover some of those borrowed monies, and that money would go back to the general fund. Does that sound familiar to anybody?
Once it's collected.
I think it's correct. You have to do it forward. We kind of talked about this with the water, trash and sewer things. If you borrow money to make ends meet from the general fund, when the day comes that you're profitable, then you impose a tariff like on hangar fees, a portion would go back to repaying that amount that you kind of borrowed via subsidy from the city.
I will have to double check, because the airport is a little different because of the amount of FAA money we have, and I believe no money made from the airport is allowed to take that. Through our grant stuff. They did a big thing on that during one of our conferences. So let me check on that, because we've never made enough money that's ever been a problem. It's not.
On
it's not
grants, free money you don't pay back ever, but on like salaries.
No,
So
they
it
said,
depends.
that type of fund is, if the airport makes money, cities can't use the money from the airport. To cover, other parts of the general fund. But they used a very big airport, they used Santa Fe's.
100%. I'm hearing what you're saying. Do go take a look at it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, because if we reverse engineer kind of what you said. If the city didn't pay out of general fund, the airport would go broke and it would close. So by borrowing or subsidizing that money, you're not using profit money from the airport to put into general fund. You're not allowed to do that with water, trash or sewer either. But you're allowed to pay back what you borrowed. Okay, so check on, I'm pretty sure I'm right. On that one, so I mean, that doesn't get us to zero on the budget, but that gives us something to.
And that's
focus
something
on.
that Mr. Mitt and I have talked about, and that's why the wages and personnel expenses are just in that one budget right now, just to put that number in our general fund budget, but we still need to look at reallocating some of these, like administrative wages, for example, that also support water, support solid waste, like for example, Mr. Mitten's wages or my wages that are not just general fund. We're doing services for all these enterprise funds as well. So looking at some of that, getting the correct ratio to allocate to these enterprise funds.
Is everybody tracking what we're talking about there?
Yes.
Like I said, Chris, if everybody's tracking, we don't have to go over it again. But say Chris Mitchell does IT for everybody. So a portion of her IT salary should be funded by enterprise funds and passed through to airport, water, sewer, and trash. And then let's say 50% of her time or 50% of her labor went to enterprise funds and 50% went to general fund. Her salary would be half out of general fund and then half passed through to the billing tariffs and enterprise funds. Where enterprise funds would pay for half her salary, which would take half the pressure of her total burden rate of salary off of general fund. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
So municipalities that are working well and hitting on all cylinders pass through as much of the expendable durable goods, salary and everything else to the billable structure, because that's the cost of doing business. And for those of you who own businesses or managing them, you get that. And I'm not saying that anybody doesn't, but to put all that burden on general fund is actually giving away half of that salary, which is not right. So we still have a handful of those at the city level to ensure we move that over. The name of this game right now is to recognize, it's kind of like show of hands if you want to. I do my own taxes. Anybody else? Okay. So when you do your own taxes at first, it's doom and gloom. You put in all your revenues. It's like, oh my gosh, I owe the IRS and the state so much money. Then you get over to your deductions. You want to move all your deductions over as you can so that you don't pay. That's kind of where we are right now. This is, instead of revenues, this is showing our revenues and all of our expenditures. Now the name of our game right now in this workshop is to start to move over all the things that are legal, moral, and ethical over to enterprise funds, so that those are passed through, because that's part of the cost of doing business. That will reduce this number. Then we also want to defer as much as we can till later on in the year. I know, because working closely with Ms. Rivera, she pads responsibly. She puts in a margin of error there to make sure we won't go broke. that margin of error doesn't really come to fruition, it doesn't really come to light until the clock or the calendar burns down. So at the beginning of the fiscal year going into July, we have to have this straight, but every bit of deferred labor, every bit of deferred maintenance, every open position. Now, keep in mind, this is as if every position was on board and every position was at the top of their salary range, and every position was taking the max insurance and everything else. So HR and finance has to look at it like that, because from a monetary standpoint, that's their worst case scenario. So every open position and whatnot, and every day that goes by, that number right there, 3086 or whatever, I can't see that far, is going down. Does that make sense? So we will work right now on moving things over to enterprise funds. We will work on deciding how much of Mr. Boban's salary is enterprise, how much is general fund. That changes that number somewhat. And then we go in on a quarterly basis. So Q1 is very much steady state, go with what you got. No more hires, no discretionary spending, so on and so forth. And then we only get what we need when we need it. That number continues to go down. So that's why when she said last year we started at a $1 million deficit, but we obviously didn't go broke because of those types of budget management moving forward. So we know, looking at that, we've already addressed this 10 minutes ago. We already know by not procuring that hardware, goods and services right up front, et cetera, that already takes $1 million off of here and whatnot. Now our task is to manage some of this going forward so that we get to zero and we can show that going forward. But we also have some other things that we have to do too. We have emergency services. So I would argue that 3 number is bigger than 3 because we have to do some stuff with manpower that we have on hand to do right by the manpower and emergency services as well. So this is an important step. This is the truth in lending. This is the worst case scenario. Now we go to work on whittling this down and getting it right, so it's right sized and we can afford it.
So is this 3 million, is that a problematic number or a temporary number?
Both.
Okay, so you had, last time was 1 million, now it's 3 times that. How did we get to that point?
Had to take out some capital requests too. We had tentatively put to transfer to street so that we could repair have our own money, but we had to take that out again. And to get it down to just $1 million deficit, but it started out higher.
Okay, what's causing that right there in your best estimation? I mean, in payroll in general to every business is the major expense. So we know that, but aside from that, is this due to not collecting water revenues as they should have been collected?
No, this would be probably a combination of things. Properly allocating some of these administrative wages that should be going to these enterprise funds. And 2 is our revenues. Like we just increased GRT. You know, we're just now starting to see some of the increases. It would be great if we can budget more, do a budget adjustment when revenues in our GRT can supplement these expenditures. Because right now it would barely cover our minimum payroll. This is minimum. It's not an increase in wages like we'd like to see for like our EMS services, like Mr. Minton said. Or across throughout our general fund at all.
And last council meeting, we talked about the timed out ambulance billing. I'm oversimplifying it. What was that number?
Time bar, 105,000.
Yeah, that's not much, but 105,000 is in there. You know, it costs us more to make ambulance, and correct me if I'm wrong. It costs us more to do emergency services calls than we get paid back for them. And then, so, you know, every emergency service call that goes out, we lose money. And then every emergency service call that's time barred, we lose money. The fact that insurance and insurance coverage went up mid-cycle, I mean, we have to pay it, but there's no revenue to, if that was a teeter-totter, right? The insurance just got fatter and the revenue got skinnier. So there's no makeup for that right now.
It also helped too that we did get some revenue, like for our fire, we had for 3 positions. We received this last fiscal year, we're able to relieve general fund by like 168,000. The PD 50-some thousand, now it helps, these amounts help relieve some of that general fund. But this year we won't, don't have it. Maybe PD a little bit, but not for fire.
So just for an example, since we started out on fire and EMS. When you file on an insurance claim, you're just able to do it at a certain rate. You can't just charge what you need to charge.
So the DOT sets, formerly PRC, now DOT sets ambulance billing tariff rates.
Right.
That we have to follow. We can't bring it before council, and increase the rate, like you can.
A private entity can.
They have to
To a
file for
point.
a special tariff, but all the research has done that, it's costing you more in legal fees than that.
I just wanted to bring that out, that it's not that we can just go in there and bill what we want to get it to where that it's actually
Zero.
making the funds, because you're limited on what you can bill.
That's absolutely correct, yeah.
Yes.
So our billing is capped, but the number of calls that we make is not.
Right.
So those losses are really,
But our recovery rate is higher than a lot of people too, so we've done a great job of recovering. It's just. It's just the nature of the beast.
It is the nature of the beast. Yes, we bring in revenue from ambulance billing, but we'll never bring in the amount that we cost.
Right.
We're a service, not a business. We're not an
Right.
enterprise.
Hi.
this isn't doom and gloom, team. I mean, again,
We're feeling that way.
well, it feels like that when I do my taxes. Feels like that when I do my taxes too, right? But more often than not, I
Well, I
am
had a
getting
bill.
some kind of return. And I'm not making fun of anybody. This is just the starting point, and then we go to work. You give it, when I was doing some cursory research. Now, we don't want to do this, but let's say a municipality said, okay, we're upside down, so no travel. We're not traveling, we're not going to conferences. We will survive. Go on Zoom, check the things afterwards. We miss out on face-to-face opportunities and whatnot. But across the municipality, travel and conferences are substantial. Non-emergency purchases. Discretionary purchases, limit those as much as possible. That's a significant amount of money. This 3 million, we can get this to 0, but you're gonna feel it. We're gonna feel it. And then we have to, moving forward, we have to be smarter about how to increase our revenues, maximize our grants and whatnot, look at our tax base and revenues and things, and start to incorporate those and get billing correctly, get billing correct. Get reimbursements correct and not be frivolous, not that anybody is. But most municipalities operate on a pretty thin wire. I would argue that we could tighten up a little bit and be more efficient. But we can also be more honest about things like the ambulance billing. How much upside down are we? And using that number as leverage for other types of income grants and whatnot to cover those gaps. We have to do that. So.
In my view, on the GRT, if we didn't have to allocate so much of it to the state and then go and beg for money back from them, and they got a smaller share to begin with, and we managed our own GRT funds here, it would be a whole lot simpler.
Seems like it'd be a whole lot simpler.
But that's not the way it's set up.
No, and if you're looking at GRT for everybody's edification, think about this. We don't have a whole lot of retail, and we don't have a whole lot of construction. We just don't have, it's not happening right now. If that were to hit a power curve, that GRT will come in droves. But right now, we're not there. We're steady state. So increasing the GRT is just increasing that mathematical figure of how much dollars is spent on average anyway. But with no growth, no building, no construction, no added retail, you can almost, within a couple $1,000s, tell what you're going to get by GRT, because we're in a cycle. Portales folks are kind of in a grind, a cycle. We wake up, do your thing, walk around park, if you're gonna do that, go to work, earn your money, spend your money at Walmart. Same amount every year. It's almost like Portales is kind of on a fixed income in a set because we're not growing right now and things like that. But once those things trip and start to happen, and they will, everybody grows. That GRT, the more money is spent, and the more, even if the GRT doesn't raise, the more money is spent, the more GRT will come back. It would be great if we managed it on our own, but until that happens, we can pretty much look and go, that's what you're gonna get. You know, on GRT. Raising property taxes. Property tax, I mean, we have to do what we have to do. We have to keep up with the Joneses, but property tax makes up what, 1/7 of our total budget. You know, so even if you maximize property taxes and whatnot, it's only gonna affect 1/7 of the budget, so it's not that much on that deal. So what we have to do right now is go into survival mode and then make ends meet. And then we managing this on a quarterly spend plan process, which is not uncommon. So very judicious in the first quarter, spend discretionary funds as needed in the second quarter. Start to look on where you are, and it's pretty much self-correct, but you just can't go at it and say, okay, it's the first day of the first day of the fiscal year, let's go buy a bunch of tractors and things like that. If you do that, you'll certainly end up in a place you don't want to. Instead of doing front load purchases, you do end of year purchases. And so.
Moving on, there's a lot of funds in here. We won't go through each one in detail. You'll have that so you can look at it. I definitely want to just touch on those key funds that we have. A lot of these will net to zero because they're either grant funded, like EMS, state fire allotment and such. So the next one I will talk about is municipal streets. This is primarily grant or projects that are for our streets. We receive a little bit of money from gasoline tax, but a lot of this will have our street projects, and a lot of these I still have to come back and into our carryovers. So if there's any TCF funds that will carry over to prior year, I'll be putting those in. This 217 fund is our recreation fund for our city league sports right now. So if we project 60,000 in revenue, payroll expense right now is about 85,000 and some expenses. So the cash that's in that fund for this fiscal year for 2027 would be enough to cover this deficit here. PATS, our Portales Area Transit Fund. This one is the fund that was significantly reduced. So this amount transfer in from general fund, again, I have it highlighted because we may not need that or be able to make that 123 like we had been in the past. Right now, it's a 50-50 from the state, both federal funds, but state, they fund 50. Right now, it's 56,820. We will budget the same unless we get approved for the 5311, which would increase the funding on that fund. This one's to be determined. I don't know yet until it gets approved.
But it's budgeted worst case right now. And so if it gets in, it should get approved. So that reduces the first $3 million number a little bit. So again, all these are worst case projections.
301 fund is capital. A lot of this fund activity is primarily grants. Anything in grant that's covered by a grant, like our animal control, things like that, was in this 301 fund. 312 is these cities capital building projects. So this one potentially, but probably not likely, is what was the 275,000 that we were wanting to transfer to cover a forklift backhoe, vehicle, etc. 404 is our debt service. So a lot of these activities or whatever loans we have, a couple are from the water, 2 from the fire. And this will net to 0 as those funds transfer in to this fund to pay the debt service, the annual loan payments.
And there's gonna be part of that GRT that's going, that increases back to water trust.
Well, are you talking about what was pledged for the? Yeah, so that's what's pledged now. Just because it's pledged that way doesn't mean we need to service the debt in that form. We may have the funds then to go ahead and not have to have those monies specifically be intercepted. But we can look at that later once it gets established.
Yeah, and I'm following what you're asking about. And those letters were written because at the time, even if you did it right now, when you look at our enterprise fund system, we are operating at a loss.
Right.
The fact that we're putting the new rates where we should be in on 1 May, that would alleviate that burden, and that if they were to do it then, it would be relooked. But that letter is just like Ms. Rivera said, basically it's a promissory note saying, we will give you some GRT money.
That was on new percentage though. There was already one that was in effect, wasn't there?
And I think we're on our third one now, second or third, but still, like she said, you don't, because you pledge to cover the debt with GRT, if there is one. Doesn't mean you have to use GRT. If the water.
Collateral.
Yeah, if the water, yeah, exactly, collateral. If everything starts billing out better, I'll tell you, frankly, we're still upside down. We're still not billing correctly, but we've stopped the immediate losses. So for what it's worth is a different topic, but talking to an outside agency now, they set their scope of work, their proposed cost estimate, and a list of data that they need to start moving forward as an independent outside agency looking at our billing rates and so on, and what it costs us to actually do business from an enterprise standpoint. So by July, August, we should have a very, very clear picture of how that looks for what it's worth.
So probably not, it won't happen this year to get it budgeted, but hopefully the year following, the system you were talking about, have that rate study.
Yeah, well, it will be in FY 27. The results will be back. And then it would be brought before council going, hey, we're right side up or we're upside down. What say you? And then we make a plan of action on that. So an adjustment could take place immediately. It doesn't have to wait till next fiscal year. But mostly on the enterprise stuff and any payback that's paid forward that's required would come out of that. And then we can talk about it then. But hypothetically, I think that you're probably looking at another rate adjustment going forward. Most likely.
It'll just be a few months after the fiscal year starts, the Monday,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna try to make it by the budget thing, but their initial crunch on data is it takes 6 weeks if they started today, which would put us, well into June and a half, just to have their first draft back.
Okay.
Okay. Our next fund is our water debt service, our wastewater treatment plant debt service. So you can see the revenues that get collected, the water surcharge fees, and then the sewer surcharge fees. And then our annual payment to service that debt. Solid waste enterprise.
Our tipping fee, I try to do that for our tipping fees in here, I can't remember.
Our tipping fees are in convenience center fees, I believe. Are you talking about what we collect?
No, what we pay out.
Oh, okay, so this is our revenues.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I'm about to get to that. 1.3. That GRT environmental, that 0.0625 right now is specifically going to assist this fund. But this is the one that was in ordinance that could assist other infrastructure needs. Okay, so right now 1.5 in solid waste revenues. And then let me show you the landfill fees that we pay City of Clovis. This is what we're budgeting, $540,000. So. Right now, this one's a deficit of about 660,000. Well, a little over that, a little over than that, just a little bit. There are some capital requests. Again, these would probably be pulled off. I know we still have three trucks on order to pending from the solid waste fund.
But this deficit of
660,000.
660,000 is factored before 12% increases went into effect. So 1 May, for all intents and purposes, the billing will be 36% greater than the numbers used to do this. And I haven't run the numbers, but I'm confident that 660 goes away before the end of the year.
Yeah. But this one's not taking into effect the rates that are gonna be increasing, May 1st. It'll be great when we can come back and we have this revenue and make a budget adjustment to set. But we just got a budget with what we do. Okay. Solid waste, this is our water enterprise fund. 506, so I have these highlighted because I still need to come back and put in our water trust board grants, any loans and such. This is the revenues from the water. So, utility water sales. About 4.2 million. Again, this is not taking into consideration the increase effective May 1st. Okay, so total revenue in this fund is with our transfers, it's right at 5 million. So these are the ones that are going to debt service and to the other funds. Okay, and then the expenses begin. They begin with the well field. I did go ahead and budget the matches for these water trust board projects. One of them you'll see, okay, one match is 1.8 million. And then the other one that is coming before your approval at the next meeting is our water project fund number 6596, and that one's 794,000.
Do you know what those projects are offhand?
So 6596 is Lime Street, and then the other one, Pat, is Wellfield.
It's the one we're trying to transfer to.
Okay, payroll expenditures, so the total for this fund is $3.9 million deficit. We have about $1 million, Pat and I calculated about $1 million in equipment or capital needs in this one that we could reduce that by. And again, it's not taking into consideration the increases that we could see. Yeah. Airport, we talked about that one. Well, needing a supplement right now. There's some matches and stuff that I need to capture for the grants and stuff, but right now it is $93,804. Again, just mainly utilities expenditures, maintenance for that building. These are the water conservation revenues that are collected from the bills that you'll see, conservation fees. And then you'll see where this money is primarily spent on the annual payment for the water administration. Okay, so Fund 551 is our water improvement fund. That one is set in just in an investment. And that's the only thing that's captured there. Water, wastewater treatment plant reserve fund. Again, these are the contingency funds that were, I believe, before my time, that was required to set up when the city got this loan.
That's right.
And those are in investments.
Okay.
Again, this fund 553 also a reserve fund. 603 is just a management fund that's set up by the city for unemployment wages or unemployment insurance, but the wages that we get billed from Department of Workforce for any claims. And our other fund is 709, which is our economic development fund. The revenues that gets collected from that GRT, a portion of that comes in. That's where you'll see that. Tentatively budgeting 100,000, about 50,000 annually usually gets approved from council to pay for the participation agreement with Roosevelt Economic Development.
RCCG.
Yeah. And then 50,000 right now is allocated specifically to, I believe, reimburse Enchantment Vineyards. I know they're waiting. This was through a LEDA grant. So LEDA funded this and that the money has already been received. So we're just budgeting for the expenditure. As soon as that comes to fruition and completes that project, then we would be able to execute the $50,000 payment. The end. There's a lot of funds and numbers in this worksheet, but those are some of these key budgets. Now, once we bring you more of a preliminary draft for your review, I'll show you what it looks like. And I know a lot of you have seen this report already. I'll turn on extension. Trying to open up the PDF.
It's in your email.
It's recapping. Thank you. You were here till the end.
Appreciate it. Mayor, you got 30 seconds?
Yes, sir.
I just want to run something while you're here out there for everybody to hear, okay? So it's pretty somber in here and pretty quiet and all that, but it really doesn't need to be, okay? So right now, we have 179 positions authorized, is that correct? 175 positions authorized. So Liliana has to budget for 175 fully burdened rate, meaning it's a $50,000 salary plus all their benefits. It's actually about $80,000 cost to the government. So we're about 16 upside down. 16 upside down. The average fully burdened rate all across the board is about $80,000 per person. If you take just that, so if we stayed steady state and didn't hire anybody going forward, that is a $1.3 million non-expenditure going forward. We're the lights are on, the water's moving. We can do that. Okay. Then if we defer just the simple purchases and things like that for the streets, the equipment and things like that, and we pay as we go. But let's say we defer this, and this is normal stuff. That's another 1.03 million. That's 2.33 million just for those, managing those on a tighter level. You take that 2.33 million that you don't spend on day one and you withhold it. And now you've closed the gap. You take 2.33 million from that 3086 number, you're at 700 and change deficit. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's not,
A little more manageable.
yeah, it's not nearly as bad. It's actually a better position than we were in last year on that deal. We just have, as a team, we have to manage the things as we go. We can't just get an allowance and go, we got the allowance, just go spend it on all the things we want. We know what we know what we think we're gonna bring in, so we just have to be judicious and say, okay, I've got to get one thing today, which one's more important of the two, and we do that. If we're gonna hire one person, I wanna hire a person, probably one, if they're absolutely critical. Life, health, safety, non-negotiable. But if I have one person who's funded by fully general funds and one person who's partial general funds and partial enterprise funds, I'm gonna lend more than we say hire that person because it puts less stress on the general fund budget. We're gonna get this. This is okay. It's not as bad as it seems. This is normal business. This is how we do it. Okay, so Mayor, I just wanted you to hear that while we while we're talking these things. It's not as sad and doom and gloom as it seems right there. Or in the first part of the text thing where it says you owe this, and we haven't even got to the the write-offs or whatever you call it, the
Deductions.
deductions. Thank you.
I guess that's the hang up for me right now is, and I'm old, so my memory is not what it used to be, but it didn't seem this bad last year. And that's concerning because I thought we were on an upward trend with how we're doing things. So I'm not understanding why it feels worse than last year.
I kind of agree with that statement, but you may have modified it before you brought it to us, and
Yes.
that may be the.
Say that?
This our personnel not having.
You gotta go to
this
the
support.
so it's just not due.
I did. I modified it. It was my plan to bring it to something that it was more balanced, too. So I did do a lot of modifying before I even brought it before presentation.
Lily, correct me if I'm wrong, but last fiscal year, we didn't budget for all the capital expenditures like she has presented today.
Right.
Again, it.
So
was
you've
a
done it
worksheet.
differly this year than you did it last year.
I put it on the
Dummy
worksheet,
this
but
down for
before it was brought to you, I took those off. Because it was definitely more manageable. But this year, yes, it's important that you see that we're not able to get these equipments or whatever we may need.
So last year before you saw it, she had taken almost all of the discretionary spending off.
You'd already had made a lot of those adjustments you're telling us you're gonna make now.
Yeah.
You just knew I would panic and have a heart attack last year. So you said, hey, let's let him wait a year and have a panic and a heart attack next year.
Because
Okay,
what you're looking
gotcha.
at general fund right now is the total budget when the teams come together and say, this is what it costs me to do my job. If you want clean streets, if you want the potholes in the roads fixed, this is what it's gonna take. So they develop their budget. And then that has a lot of discretionary spending, right? The things like loan paybacks and whatnot, that's fixed costs with the light bills, the O&M and all that. We have to do that. But the things that we want to do to be right, that's discretionary. And that's what you're looking at right now. This is what it costs to make Portales with decent streets, so on and so forth. So now we have to go through and start stripping some of those discretionary things out. We've got to pay the bills. It's not negotiable, right? We got to pay the loans back. We got to pay the energy bill. We got to pay the salaries and that kind of stuff. But then I think we defined that already. I'm just saying what everybody else said. I'm throwing discretionary and mandatory spending in there. But yeah, she had stripped it right down to bare bones when she brought it to you last year. This year, what you're seeing first look is the budget the way it should be.
Okay.
And now, unfortunately, we have to take things out.
Another thing that made last year look a little bit better is we had part of a reserve that you were using burning through.
That's
We
not-
took that out of it, it would have looked a whole lot worse.
Remind me, what was that? The reserve or what?
The covering the water, the enterprise. Yes, covering enterprise. funds.
Yeah.
The deficit.
So once it's all recapped and we work back through some of these numbers in our worksheet, this is what you'll be seeing. This is our FY 26, what was approved. you'll see it in our recap, and this is what gets submitted to the state and also balanced there. That worksheet is all condensed, and this is what you'll see at the end with details and summaries, but this is what will be presented. We do have a,
Send that to us,
which one?
the one that you're.
This one? Mm-hmm. I can share this one. And I'll share the recap report and then the details so you can see it too by department if you need to.
So today is basically letting us see the big picture. Next steps is what?
I'm gonna strip out some discretionary spending.
And when do we do that?
So we have a presentation to Finance Committee on the preliminary draft of the budget on May 21st. So you'll see it on May 21st. So we have a lot of work to do ahead of us to get this more manageable. So that we don't scare you.
On May 21st, the full breakout of partial salaries will be moved. Some of that equipment that is necessary, but let me try to explain this. So a loader, the city could buy a loader and use general funds and have a loader, or the city could buy a loader and use enterprise funds and have a loader. Both agencies need a loader. Water needs to rip up streets to be able to get to water mains, then repair the street, etc. And streets need to do that, but streets fully general fund, water is enterprise fund. So by moving things over to enterprise fund, then that's affected by the billable rate and so on and so forth. A municipality right to the wall of what's generally accepted business practices and generally accepted accounting practices should move all things over to enterprise funds that's legal, moral, and ethical. That takes that red number and starts to shrink it down. But there's only so much you're allowed to do.
Yeah.
The auditors and stuff, they're hip to that. So we have to do some of that work to get that done. Then we have to split those salaries out and move those portions of the salary over. That'll reduce that number. That balance that I told you, if we didn't hire anybody, and that's not our goal, but if we didn't hire anybody and we took that discretionary spending off of there up front, we know that that's gonna take $2.33 million out of that red number. And then we take that number and we move over fractions of those salaries. That's even to come down off of 7. We're gonna be somewhere down around, I would argue, 4 or 5 when we're done with this. And that's fully manageable.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, we'd sit there, we'd be in the black on the top line or whatever, and our problem would be how do we get rid of money and stuff like that, but.
Yeah, let's get there.
What's that?
Let's get there.
Yeah.
I like that answer.
And it will get there whenever that enterprise fund
Eventually.
increase comes back in.
It will start to, it'll take.
It
some
won't
pressure
though,
off,
because
yeah.
we're not
But,
completely
you
right.
know, things like a Lowe's and a Home Depot, whatever, that GRT, the more money that's spent, the more will come back, and you know. So our job right now is to keep the city thriving, and until you know there's a breakthrough and more money starts getting spent, it will. Technology, something's gonna work out. Positive mental attitude, guys. We got it.
We got it.
And positivity is very quiet at first. So
I am positive about it, and I think that we're on the right track. We're getting there. It's just gonna take a little bit of adjustment to get there, so.
Mhm.
But I appreciate all of the work you guys have put into this to bring it to where it is now, so.
Yeah, I think it will tell a different picture come May 21st type thing, and we start looking, and then we have contingencies, right? Then things are variables. If we only spend this much on travel, what's the number? If we only spend this much on equipment, what's the number? Then what's the acceptable number? And I know in my heart of hearts, she doesn't have to show her cards, but Miss Rivera pads. She puts in a hefty margin of safety so that we don't end up in a place we don't want to. So there's a dollar figure associated with that too. And I know that as the finance director, she'll probably show those cards a little looser in the second and third quarter of the year, but right now she's gotta, keep it real tight to make sure we don't end up in a financial place we don't wanna be. So somewhere in there is a variable too.
I do the same thing in my profession. Whenever I'm telling somebody when they're selling their house, what it's gonna cost them. I inflate those costs to where that whenever we get to the end. They're surprised in a good way that it didn't cost them that much, but they were ready for it.
Yeah.
So.
Ditto, except the opposite from Eldon.
I
I
appreciate
forgot
it.
you were online. I thought I just did. Oh,
Under promise and over deliver.
Yep.
Okay, so May 21st. A couple of goals that we're gonna have solidified. That number will look different because we will have worked with HR and defined those salaries and moved them over. We'll check to make sure that, we're not crossing any boundaries that we can't cross. Any heavy equipment purchases and things like that we can move from general fund to enterprise fund, we'll do that. That'll move that number over a little bit. And then we'll have, you probably even build a model that you plug in. If we hire somebody, what does it do that number and so on and so forth. So we'll be able to do that for the finance committee on the 21st, get a look-see there and then bring it to council. From there.
Yep.
So I'm pretty, if we had to pull an emergency trigger and get to zero. And had to go into like crisis planning, we're fine, we're there. We could get to zero, not hire anybody, don't travel, no conferences, no discretionary spending, pay your bills, pay your salaries, we will be fine. But we do have professional development that we need to do. We do have to do maintenance and things like that, so we just have to be judicious going forward with doing that. We're gonna be okay.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Liliana.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So there's no need for a tomorrow? No? Okay. Yes.
You're all of these.
Yeah, you're getting faster. Okay, perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for all being here.
I think I get to make it to my volleyball meeting.